Welcome back. Today we are making these delicious and fluffy matcha cinnamon rolls. As always, I like to start by setting out all of my ingredients ahead of time, and then we set to work on our matcha cinnamon roll dough. We're combining our all-purpose flour, matcha powder, instant yeast, and salt. I like to just whisk this together until everything seems to be pretty well incorporated, and then we get out our dough hook. You can also make this by hand, but I usually prefer using a stand mixer just because it's a little bit easier. Next, we're adding some granulated sugar and unsalted butter into our whole milk. We're going to heat that up for about a minute until all the butter is melted and the mixture is just warm to the touch. You don't want it to be hot or it can kill the yeast. Then we pour those wet ingredients into our dry ingredients and mix on a low speed until the dough starts to come together. Once everything seems like it's pretty well incorporated, it's time to add in our large eggs. So I like to add these in one at a time, and you want to mix on a medium speed to really make sure that the egg is getting properly mixed throughout the dough. As it starts to get a little bit stickier looking like that, you can add in your next egg and then continue to mix on a medium speed until the dough starts to look a little bit smoother and more elastic. This might take a couple of minutes or even a few minutes, but eventually your dough should look something like this. At this stage, I like to test my dough with my finger and see if I need to add in more flour. I found that it was a little bit sticky still, so I added in 1 more tablespoon of all-purpose flour and mixed until that was incorporated and my dough had a perfectly tacky and not sticky feel. It can be hard to know when your dough is ready, but I really find just taking a break as you're mixing and just poking it with your finger is the best way to tell. So you can see here I came out with a clean finger, no residue, and it was still a little bit tacky, so we were all ready to go. I covered the dough and let it rest for about a half hour, and then it was time to roll it out. It's important to let your dough rest because it allows the gluten time to relax, which makes it so much easier to roll out. Once I had rolled my dough to be about 14 by 18 inches, I spreaded my softened unsalted butter over the dough, leaving about 1 inch on one side of the dough uncovered, which is important because it's going to allow us to be able to seal our cinnamon rolls once they're filled. To make our matcha cinnamon roll filling, we're combining light brown sugar, matcha powder, of course some ground cinnamon, and a little bit of fine salt. Once I whisked that together and broke up any large bits of brown sugar, I sprinkled this over the buttered section on our cinnamon roll dough. The goal here is just to get an even layer over that buttered section so that way you have some of that deliciously sweet matcha filling in every bite. Then it's time to roll up our cinnamon rolls. You want to do this in the long direction and you want to take your time as you go just so you get a nice even roll. I like to dip my finger in a little bit of water and brush it along that uncovered bit of dough just so that way we can really seal off our log and keep all of that delicious filling in place. Then we use our handy dandy dental floss to get really nice clean cuts on our cinnamon rolls. One batch of dough makes about 12 cinnamon rolls, and I like to place these in a greased 9 by 13 rectangular pan just like this. Then we give our cinnamon rolls about a half hour to proof. I like to do this in my oven, but you can also do this in any warm area in your house. So we can see they've really increased in volume, and now it's time to bake them. So we let our oven heat to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and bake those for 28 to 32 minutes. While they bake, we work on the cream cheese frosting, which is just butter, cream cheese, powdered sugar, a little bit of milk, and some vanilla extract. I spooned about 2/3 of my frosting over my warm cinnamon rolls, then I colored the remaining frosting with 2 tablespoons of matcha powder and swirled it into the cream cheese frosting just to make these cinnamon rolls look as good as they taste. If you want to make these at home, the recipe is up on Chelsweets.com and it's linked in the video description below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy baking!